Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you the biggest lie in hip-hop history wasn't just about beef, money, or clout, but about life and death itself? Yeah, let that sink in for a second. Because while the streets mourned, while murals were painted and tributes poured in, while fans cried themselves to sleep thinking their favorite rapper was gone forever, there might have been another story playing out behind closed doors. Now, brace yourself, because this isn't some random conspiracy theory floating around TikTok. No, this is deeper, darker, and way more twisted. Hidden footage, whispers in the industry, and a trail of suspicious movements, all pointing toward one impossible question. Was King Von really gone, or was the whole thing set up to fool the world? And here's where it gets crazier. Guess whose name keeps popping up at the center of the storm? That's right, Lil Durk. The so-called voice of the streets. The man who turned Von into a legend, but now he's being accused of hiding one of the biggest secrets hip-hop has ever seen. So ask yourself, if the evidence is real, if the leaks are true, and if the cameras don't lie, then what else have we been fed that's nothing but smoke and mirrors? Alright, let's peel back the curtain on this wild scandal. Because if you thought hip-hop was just about beats, bars, and platinum chains, you're dead wrong. This is chess, not checkers, and Lil Durk seems to be playing the dirtiest game of them all. So here's the setup. The world was convinced that King Von was taken out in that infamous Atlanta shooting back in 2020. Headlines screamed, fans wept, and overnight, Von was transformed from rising star to urban legend. But what if I told you that whole tragic moment might have been staged? Yeah, you heard me right. Staged, scripted, rehearsed, like some Hollywood production gone grimy. And guess who the director might have been? The one and only Lil Durk. Now let's rewind the tape. Before Von's so-called death, there were already whispers in the industry, rumors of shady deals, backroom politics, and a lot of unanswered questions about OTF's money flow. See, Durk wasn't just a rapper. He was building an empire. And when empires rise, secrets pile up. Fans were quick to notice the inconsistencies. The official police report, holes everywhere. The surveillance footage, choppy, blurry, conveniently missing crucial seconds. Von supposedly being rushed to the hospital? No raw, uncut footage from fans. No clear hospital updates. Nothing but carefully worded press statements. Almost like someone wanted to control the entire narrative from start to finish. And then came the bombshell. Leaked clips floating around on the dark corners of the internet. Grainy, shaky, but enough to send chills down your spine. A tall figure, looking a lot like Von, spotted months after his supposed death. Hood on, chain tucked, moving through back alleys in Chicago, like a ghost that refused to stay buried. Could it be a lookalike? Sure. Could it be Photoshop? Maybe. But why, out of all people, would these leaks constantly get wiped off the internet the second they start gaining traction? Who has that kind of power to scrub the web clean? Here's where the plot thickens. All fingers started pointing back to Lil Durk. Because think about it. Von was his closest soldier, his right-hand man, the face of OTF next to him. If Von's alive, who benefits from keeping him hidden? Who controls the story, the legacy, the money? You guessed it, Durk. Let's not forget, Durk isn't exactly squeaky clean when it comes to scandals. The man's been in and out of courtrooms like they're revolving doors. From gun charges to attempted murder trials, the rap sheet is longer than a CVS receipt. And every single time, just when it looks like Durk is cornered, somehow, someway, he slips out untouched, like the system bend for him, or maybe he just knows exactly what card to play. But Von, he was different. Raw, reckless, uncontrollable. He wasn't just a rapper. He was a street legend who carried stories too real to be silenced. And if those stories ever got out, especially stories that could tie Durk to backdoor deals, secret rivalries, or hidden feuds, the entire OTF empire could crumble overnight. So here's the theory gaining traction: Von didn't die. He was forced underground, hidden from the spotlight, tucked away like some forbidden secret, because the truth he carried was way too dangerous. And who had both the motive and the means to pull that off? None other than Lil Durk. Now, don't take my word for it. Let's look at what the sources are saying. According to one so-called insider, who claims to have been close to the OTF camp, Von was seen alive weeks after the Atlanta incident. The source goes on to say, it was like watching a ghost. They didn't want us to talk, But I know what I saw. Durk told everyone to shut it down, act like it never happened. Crazy, right? But it doesn't stop there. Fans started connecting dots like detectives on Twitter threads. Why did Durk seem way too calm during interviews about Vaughn's passing? Why did he drop songs so quickly after the incident, capitalizing on Vaughn's death instead of retreating to grieve? And most importantly, why did the OTF label's profits skyrocket in the months following Vaughn's death? Coincidence or business strategy? It's almost like Vaughn's death was the ultimate marketing move. Tragic enough to rally fans, mysterious enough to spark endless speculation, and profitable enough to keep OTF at the top of the food chain. But here's the part that'll make your head spin. Multiple fan accounts claim they've spotted Vaughn in places he should not be. From blurry club footage in Miami to alleged sightings in Los Angeles, the pattern keeps popping up. And each time, the clips vanish faster than you can hit the share button. Almost like someone's watching. Someone's pulling strings to make sure the secret doesn't spill too far. And if that doesn't make you raise an eyebrow, here's the kicker. Recently, hidden footage started circulating. A private recording showing what appears to be Vaughn in a studio session long after his supposed death. The footage hasn't been verified, but the voice, the mannerisms, the energy fans are swearing up and down at him. One YouTube commenter wrote, "I grew up listening to Vaughn." That's his laugh. That's his vibe. You can't fake that. So if the footage is real, if Vaughn is alive, then what does that say about Lil Durk's role in this whole charade? Because right now, it's looking less like a tragedy and more like one of the biggest cover-ups in rap history. And let's not ignore the money trail. OTF merch sales went through the roof after Vaughn's passing. Tribute concerts? Sold out in minutes. Streams? Numbers through the ceiling. Every single statistic points to one fact. Vaughn's so-called death turned into the best business move OTF ever made. And who's at the head of that cash machine? None other than Lil Durk himself. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just a story about life and death. It's about manipulation, profit, and power. It's about how an entire culture can be played like pawns on a chessboard while the kings sit back and rake in rewards. So here we are, staring at the million-dollar question. What exactly is Lil Durk hiding King Vaughn from? Because if Vaughn is alive, and let's be real, the leaks, the whispers, the shady disappearances all point in that direction, then somebody, somewhere, is running the biggest smoke and mirrors act hip-hop has ever seen. Now let's break this down like detectives on a crime show. In every scandal, you follow two things, the motive and the money. And when it comes to Durk, he's dripping in both. First, the motive. Remember, Vaughn wasn't just some psychic tagging along for the ride. He had his own raw, unfiltered voice that fans ate up like fast food at 3 a.m. He could have easily branched off, built his own empire, maybe even overshadowed Durk in the long run. That kind of independent power? Dangerous for a man like Durk, who thrives on control. What's the easiest way to keep a loud voice silent without actually pulling the trigger? Stage his death. Bury him in shadows and take control of his legacy. Cold, calculated, and chilling. Then there's the money. Oh boy, the money. Think about it. Vaughn's catalog streams doubled after his death. Merchandise sold like wildfire. Tribute events raked in millions. And every single dollar? Guess whose hands it passed through first? Durk and the OTF machine. It's almost too convenient, like tragedy turned into a business plan. But here's where things get messier. The so-called hidden footage that's been leaking isn't just some fan-made TikTok edits. No, these are high quality, behind-the-scenes type clips that look like they came from people close to camp. Studio sessions, private after-parties, random appearances in cities Vaughn shouldn't be in. It's like someone on the inside is tired of keeping quiet and decided to start sprinkling breadcrumbs for the world to follow. And guess what? The breadcrumbs are leading right back to Lil Durk. Take this. An anonymous Twitter account, supposedly tied to a former OTF associate, dropped a thread claiming Vaughn was being protected and hidden away because he knew too much about internal beefs, shady label contracts, and even underground ties that could shake the industry to its core. According to this account, Vaughn wanted out of OTF, out of the street politics, out of Durk's shadow. And right when he started making those moves, boom, suddenly he's gone. Suspicious doesn't even begin to cover it. The public reaction? Absolute chaos. Fans are divided down the middle. Half the internet is screaming conspiracy theory, while the other half is zooming in on every grainy clip, every leaked screenshot, every shaky piece of audio, swearing it's Vaughn. Memes are flying, YouTube channels are dissecting every second of footage, and Twitter threads are longer than Marvel movie scripts. One viral comment summed it up perfectly. If Vaughn is alive, then hip-hop ain't rap no more, it's WWE. And honestly, that might be the most accurate take yet. Because the whole thing is starting to feel less like reality and more like scripted entertainment. With Durk as the Vince McMahon of the streets, pulling strings while fans eat up the drama. But let's not pretend this is just about fans being bored. Real people are asking real questions. Like, why did multiple hospital workers from that night in Atlanta later claim they couldn't comment on Vaughn's condition? Why were certain security cameras in the area malfunctioning right at the time of the shooting? Why did police reports contradict eyewitness accounts? You can call it coincidence, or you can call it a carefully controlled operation. And then, of course, there's a leaked studio tape. If you haven't heard about it, buckle up. Supposedly, a short clip surfaced on Reddit showing a figure that looked and sounded exactly like Vaughn, laying down vocals in a dimly lit booth. The laugh, the cadence, the raw energy. Fans swore was unmistakably him. Within hours, the clip was scrubbed from every platform faster than you could refresh the page. Who has that kind of digital cleanup power? Random hackers? Doubt it. That kind of scrubbing screams corporate-level control. Now, you know the internet. Once you take something down, 10 more copies pop up. And even though the original video vanished, screenshots, transcripts, and audio snippets kept bouncing around. And each time, the debate grew louder. Was that Vaughn alive and breathing? And if so, who's keeping him locked in the shadows and why? And here's the part that should terrify Durk. The streets are starting to believe it. We're not just talking about fans online. We're talking about people who actually knew Vaughn, who grew up around him, who claim they've seen or heard things that don't add up. One anonymous Chicago voice even claimed in a podcast, "Durk don't want y'all to know the truth. Vaughn ain't gone. He just too dangerous alive." Too dangerous alive? Let that line sink in. Because what could Vaughn possibly know or be planning to expose? That makes it safer for Durk to pretend he's dead. And don't think Durk hasn't noticed the chatter. If you watch his recent interviews, there are moments, subtle but telling, where he gets twitchy whenever Vaughn's name comes up. Quick subject changes, nervous laughs, vague answers. Almost like a man trying to hide a poker hand. He doesn't want the table to see. Meanwhile, fans have been analyzing Durk's lyrics like CIA codebreakers. Lines that seem like tributes suddenly read like cryptic confessions. References to ghosts, to silence, to loyalty beyond the grave. Is it just rap bravado, or is Durk dropping breadcrumbs of his own, taunting the world with hints that Vaughn is closer than we think? It's wild, it's messy, and it's getting harder to dismiss as just internet rumor. Because every time you think the story is dying down, another leak, another sighting, another suspicious slip pops right back up. It's like a fire that refuses to go out, no matter how much water Durk tries to throw on it. And if the fire keeps burning, the fallout could be catastrophic. We're talking about lawsuits from record labels, government investigations into fraud, even federal charges if it turns out this whole saga involves insurance scams or financial schemes. Because let's be real, if Vaughn's death was faked, then someone's cashing checks that should have never been written. Which brings us to the cliffhanger no one's ready for. The whispers that federal eyes are already watching. That somewhere in a quiet office, investigators are piecing together timelines, money trails, and testimonies. And if that's true, then Durk's empire might be standing on shakier ground than anyone realized. So here we are, right at the edge of the cliff. The smoke is thick, the whispers are deafening, and all roads keep leading back to one man, Lil Durk, the empire builder, the voice of the streets, and now, possibly, the mastermind behind one of the biggest illusions hip-hop has ever witnessed. Because let's face it, if King Vaughn is alive, if those hidden clips and leaked audios are legit, then Durk isn't just a rapper. He's the director of a play so twisted it makes House of Cards look like Sesame Street. But let's talk fallout. Imagine what happens the second this truth spills into the daylight. Forget trending hashtags. Forget fan theories. I'm talking full-blown industry meltdown. Record labels dragged into lawsuits. Millions in wrongful death payouts questioned. Insurance fraud investigations. And let's not forget, federal agents with enough resources to dig through every shady dollar OTF ever touched. See, here's the thing about playing with death. You can trick fans, you can manipulate the media, but Uncle Sam, he doesn't like being played. And if the government realizes money was made off Vaughn's death, only for him to turn up alive, that's not just scandal, that's criminal. We could be talking indictments, RICO charges, asset freezes, the whole 9 yards. And for Durk, that would mean watching the empire he built brick by brick crumble overnight. The houses, the cars, the jewelry, gone. The label deals, the partnerships, the sponsorships, gone. All because the truth decided it didn't want to stay buried. But legal fallout isn't even the scariest part. No, the streets are. Because if the streets feel like they've been lied to, manipulated, played for fools, that kind of betrayal doesn't get forgiven. Vaughn wasn't just an artist. He was a hero to many, a symbol of surviving the trenches and turning pain into power. To find out his death was a hoax orchestrated for clout and cash, that's gasoline on an already burning fire. And you know the streets. Once they turn on you, they don't turn back. We've seen it happen before. Careers ended, reputations torched, even lives lost. And Durk, for all his influence, is not untouchable. If anything, he's more vulnerable now than ever. But here's where it gets almost poetic. Because buried in all this chaos is the one question nobody wants to answer. What about Vaughn himself? If he really is alive, if he really has been tucked away like some dark secret, then why hasn't he spoken out? Why hasn't he walked back into the light and set the record straight? Some say fear. Fear of enemies, fear of betrayal, fear of the very people who once claimed to protect him. Others say control, that Durk and ODF are keeping him under lock and key, silencing him with contracts, threats, and maybe worse. And then there are those who believe Vaughn himself agreed to disappear, that he wanted out of the circus, out of the spotlight, and this was the only way to escape. Whatever the reason, his silence is deafening. And in that silence, the theories grow louder, the leaks hit harder, and the suspicion on Durk thickens like a storm cloud. And make no mistake, Durk feels that storm. Look at his moves lately. The sudden social media purges, the cryptic tweets, the subtle distancing from OTF affiliates who talk too much. It's like watching a man try to patch leaks in a sinking ship while the water keeps pouring in. But here's the ultimate twist. What if Durk wanted the leaks? What if the breadcrumbs we've been chasing weren't accidents, but a carefully laid trail? Because let's not forget, controversy sells, scandal sells, and nothing keeps a name hotter in hip-hop than whispers of conspiracy that refuses to die. Think about it. Every time the Vaughn is alive, story resurfaces, streams spike, blogs write, fans debate, and who stays at the center of attention through it all? Lil Durk. Maybe, just maybe, this whole thing isn't about hiding Vaughn, but about weaponizing his legend to keep OTF untouchable. Wild theory? Absolutely. But in a world where reality and entertainment blur more every day, can we really rule out? And that's what makes this saga so addictive. Because whether you believe Vaughn is alive, whether you think Durk is a mastermind or just caught in the whirlwind, one truth stands unshaken. The story refuses to die. It's bigger than one man, bigger than one label, bigger than one city. It's become a myth, a modern-day hip-hop folklore that fans will argue about for decades. But let's say, just for a moment, the truth does crack open. Imagine Vaughn stepping out, alive and breathing, in front of cameras. Imagine the chaos. Fans fainting, crying, screaming, labels scrambling, reporters losing their minds, the internet literally breaking in half, and Durk standing there exposed with no way to spin the story anymore. Would he call it strategy? Would he play it off as survival? Or would he finally admit that the greatest story ever sold was nothing more than smoke and mirrors? We may never know. But here's the irony. Whether Vaughn is alive or gone, whether this whole saga is truth or illusion, Durk's legacy is already stained. Because once the seed of doubt is planted, it grows forever. Fans will always wonder, always question, always look at him sideways and think, what if? And in a game built on loyalty, on truth in the trenches, that single doubt might be the one thing that haunts Lil Durk for the rest of his career. So as part 3 closes, we leave you with this chilling image. A ghost that refuses to stay buried, a rapper who might not be dead, and an empire built on a foundation that could collapse at any second. Whether it's scandal, strategy, or straight up smoke, one thing is undeniable. The streets will never look at Durk the same way again. So now, after everything we've laid out, I've got to throw this back at you. Because this isn't just a story. It's a question that could rewrite hip-hop history. If King Von really is alive, then what else has been a lie? What other truths have been sold to us, packaged up for profit, while the real story was buried under contracts and cover-ups? And let's be real, you, sitting here right now, you've got an opinion. Maybe you're screaming cap. Maybe you're convinced the footage is real. Or maybe you're sitting there wondering if Lil Durk has been running the longest con the game has ever seen. Either way, you're in this now. You've seen the evidence, the leaks, the suspicious moves. You can't unsee it. So, here's what I want you to do. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Vaughn is out there, alive in the shadows? Or do you think this is just another internet fairy tale cooked up by people who love chaos? And if he is alive, what happens next? Does Durk's empire fall? Does the industry crumble? Or do fans forgive and keep streaming like nothing ever happened? Hit that like button if you're ready for the truth to finally spill. Smash subscribe so you don't miss the next bombshell we uncover. Because trust me, this rabbit hole, we're just getting started. And don't forget to share this with someone who still believes everything they see on TMZ, because they need to hear this. This is Celebrity Press, signing off. But remember, in the world of fame, money, and power, nothing is ever what it seems.